Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Film Craic, the program where myself, Nick, and himself,
Thomas Aquinas the Third,
talk about films that have, for one reason or other, possibly not gotten a proper DVD release, that have disappeared, that were maybe only ever, on grey market VHS with dodgy subtitles, that kind of stuff. And so a few episodes ago, we talked about a couple of Mexican films. I think both of them were fan subtitled by a kind fellow called Spinal. So we're going to look at two more. These aren't by Spinal. We're going to look at Body Snatchers, or the Ladrón de Cadáveres, directed by Fernando Mendez, I think. And the fan subs in this case are by somebody called Stodwa, Stodwa. We're also going to look at. Did you notice, by the way, that there's quite a nice looking print of Mansion of the Seven Mummies with, I think, the same fan sub up on what is the you mentioned it before, something of Chinatown,
White Slaves of Chinatown.
Yeah, they have, I think, this copy on YouTube.
Yes, but it's not as good a copy as the one I sent you. But that one doesn't have subs, and plus that one also has an annoying like ident or something on it from somewhere, right, or other, right?
Right. Although not the one that, it's funny, not the one that I have doesn't have an ident on it. But
no, the one you have is identical to the one on White Slaves of Chinatown 3D.
Okay. I didn't notice there was like a. Okay,
no,
anyway.
The ident's on the other one that I sent you, the one
on the one that you sent me. Okay, yes, yeah.
Right.
Which I didn't end up watching. I think I just ended up watching the one that I had.
Okay.
Because I didn't notice a hugely appreciable difference in quality myself.
No, it is. I've noticed this over the last few shows we've done. I've come to the conclusion that you don't actually recognize HD. You can't do it. I've noticed.
No. I need glasses, so that would.
But you said to me a few times, "Oh, I think that's not HD, Nick," and other times So for whatever reason, you don't notice HD.
I'm impervious to the charms of HD.
The difference between the two versions, though, is the nicer version is nicer, but it's also has muted colors. This is I don't think you said La Mansion de la
Mansion of the Mansion of the Seven Mummies.
Yeah.
Directed by, and I don't remember now, but I can tell you in just a second.
Rafael Lanuza.
Yes. That was me telling you.
Which is interesting. He made the last film he directed is something called Sexo Ra Ra Ra, which I quite fancy to see.
That sounds like it might be pretty good.
Yeah.
Based on Mansion. And this has fan subs by somebody called Turdis. That's Turdis, who actually has fan subbed a bunch of great stuff over the years.
Grab him, Nick, and we'll do him.
Yep. So thanks to Stodwa and Turdis for the subs. I've noticed when I was looking at other people's reviews of these, a lot of the reviews of these are of prints that didn't have. They're all like, "Oh, this has never been dubbed into English," or "This has never been subtitled." So we are part of the point of doing this is to just give some respect, give some thanks to the folks who do this fan subbing, and also to let you know that you may have some trouble. Although we did say that you can see Mansion of the Seven Mummies with subtitles on YouTube if you check it out.
Yeah, well, also we were thinking about doing a show maybe sometime in the near future to spotlight White Slaves of Chinatown 3D channel, because there's some pretty cool things on there which which are rare, and certainly rare with any useful English subtitles on there. So it's just a matter of picking two representative titles, and
I'm definitely down.
Yeah.
So our first film, The Body Snatcher from 1957, 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Ladrón de Cadáveres.
Ladrón, yes. Is so here, I mean, Clive, you have watched a lot more Mexican wrestling films, I think, than I have. For one thing. My understanding is that this is one of the very first, or if not the very first, to have this mashup of Mexican wrestling plus science fiction, fantasy, horror.
Yeah,
together.
I think that's about right. So this is from 1956, and like I said, directed by Fernando Mendes, who also made The Vampire and The Vampire's Coffin.
Right.
Which are actually, I don't think I've seen either of those, and they're quite celebrated.
Yeah, The Vampire definitely gets a lot of kudos online. So,
in fact, I remember they showed them at some point, I think. So, a slight tangent, but we're all about that. So, me and our good friend Darren, we back in, well, just before I left for Japan, so I think early 1999, I was looking about in the Time Out listings for things that were going on, because we were both living in London at the time. And it was the first time that we had stumbled across the Gothic Film Society, which is a very long-running film club I think it goes back like the 60s or something. And it's still,
I hope everyone there wears crushed velvet and has big goblets of wine, and there's like chandeliers and stuff in there.
What was awesome about it when we turned up, actually, it was more of a local community hall vibe with like no frills, no nothing. It was more urn of tea and sandwiches and
excellent
tired folk. It was, and me and Aaron, who were
local scout hall with some scones and tweedy gentlemen.
The reason we went was because, like I said, I was scouring, and it jumped out at me. They were showing a film that was more difficult to see in those days, but I'd read about in Psychotronic Video, which was The Monster.
Oh, yes.
And they had it on a double bill with I Bury the Living. I don't know if you've ever seen I Bury the Living.
Oh.
Great Charles Band's dad film from the late 50s. Like a expanded Twilight Zone episode or something. Really, really good film. And they had this double bill, The Monster and I Bury the Living. And yeah, me and Darren had a great time. And then when it was done, we were kind of trying to make conversation with the old codgers who ran the place. I remember, because we were all like, oh, what else have you shown over the years or whatever? And the one memory the old dude had of a particularly good show actually was they showed a double bill of The Vampire and the Vampire's Coffin. So
okay.
Yeah, so there you are.
Nice.
Weird roundabout way.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring in the Gothic films there. So run to this day. I think they still do. They have seasons every year, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
So just in case we have any watchers who are in the London area, where would you need to go to, roughly speaking? Do you remember?
I can't remember, but there is a web presence now.
Okay, Google it.
It might even move around. I don't know. It might not be in the same location that when we went.
That makes it sound very sketchy.
Yeah. Check out your local community for the Gothic films. Yeah, South London, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter. Look it up.
So yes, back to the Ladrón de Cadáveres, the body snatcher.
Said like a true Russian.
So we've got Crocs, which is a great name, if that's how you even say it. Crocs Alvarado as Capitan Carlos Robles. He's our cop character. So the film I will say this, the print I watched, which I assume is the print you watched, is really beautiful.
Yes,
and the film itself is really well shot.
Yes.
Like, again, gorgeous black and white photography. Kind of, just, it just seemed a bit higher end than I was expecting it to be.
Right.
Like, the film looked really good. But anyway.
It's famous as well, isn't it, for back in the day, because I think it got photos printed in Famous Monsters of Film land of the transformed. So it was one of those, because I don't know how much of a distribution it, like if it had been dubbed into English, and I'm not sure. So it was one of those mystery titles.
Like you got skills from it, but maybe nobody actually saw the film. Yeah,
so it became a bit of a kind of legendary title.
So he's our police captain, and he's trying to hunt down. So there's been a series of mysterious kind of murders and grave robbings, mostly of big burly wrestling men.
Yes.
Who have had chunks of their skull removed, which is all, and then their nerve endings tied off, which is a kind of a creepy and weird little specific thing that they bring up.
By the way, I forgot to answer your question, Nick, because I got hijacked by the mind thing. Yes, 1956. I think, yeah, quite right. I think it is so obviously there had been earlier Mexican wrestler adventures, and that, yeah, but I think this was the first, even though it's not. I think it's maybe a year later with Curse of the Aztec Mummy might be the first time you have a wrestler directly
interacting with the supernatural.
Yeah. Or maybe after that again at some point in the Santo series. But yeah, this is the first time someone has a genius idea of mixing horror and wrestling, right?
And this is before any of the Santo films as well.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if people know about Mexican wrestling films at all, they would tend to, that's the name they would first go to, right?
Yes.
El Santo, or maybe El Diablo Azul. But yeah, this is so our other kind of main character, who is a pal of our hero, is a kind of a womanizing but good-natured.
I love this man.
Wolf Rubin, I gave you say his name.
Wolf Rubinsky. Yeah,
right.
It's interesting. I looked him up actually. So apparently
Argentinian?
No, well, yes, but so apparently of a Latvian Jew.
Right.
Whose
but in Argentina
fled the Nazis and gone to Argentina.
Not a great place to go to flee.
No, I was going to say, I bet they were surprised when some Nazis followed right after. Shit! I thought we'd got rid of them. Yes, and so he grew up, and he became a wrestler. He was like one of the few,
like a legit wrestler.
Yes, and he's so likable in this film.
Yes,
but he's a bit of a hayseed, right? And he turns up,
in his cowboy hat.
Yeah, and he clocks the attractive, like woman
Lucia behind the counter at their local wrestling gym, where she seems to be filing paperwork or whatever, right?
And he zeroed in on her straight away. But he's kind of how can I say, he's politely aggressive about it, right? He's
like a lovable puppy. Like, more than
a great bit where he turns
up
at her apartment and she's been sunbathing in like a slip or something, and she didn't expect him so early, and he's like so overcome that she's basically in her underwear. But again, he's not like aggressive about it.
No,
but he's clearly like, oh, and she's like, I'm going to get dressed. Why? So you can see why someone would fall for him, right? Yeah.
He's pretty cute.
I liked him quite a bit in this film.
So he's showed up, and he's a friend of our police captain, and he is going to he wants to work out at the gym, and he's hoping to have a career in wrestling. And so basically his buddy has this idea of like, well, hang on, maybe we can do two birds here. I'm hunting for some sort of creep who's been abducting and murdering professional wrestlers. Why don't we have you be man bait? We'll make you a famous professional wrestler. We'll give you a what is it called? There's a name for it when they have like the thing that they do, the wrestlers, like their character, their handle, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Gimmick, right? That's what it's called. We'll give you a gimmick. You're going to be El Vampiro. And so he does actually mask up, which also helps him hide his identity, because he's supposed to be, he's got to work in this police angle. I also like the idea that that the wrestling gym manager is complaining that he doesn't know who in the gym are guys training to be wrestlers and who are just like undercover cops. He's like, I'm finding it hard to so yeah.
And so the mad scientist and his assistant are obviously targeting this gym as well, and they have like a wrestler called Wolf killed so they can. And the one thing I was slightly confused about,
what the plan exactly was,
or what the experiments are. Like, is he putting, because I read in the plot descriptions of other people online that he's putting animal brains in, but I'm not sure if it's ever spelled out exactly what he's doing, at least in the subtitles. Like, is he putting ape brains in here.
That's what it seems like, and it seems like the idea is that somehow, although he jumps from A to B or A to Z, really, he's like, once this is figured out, I will rule the world.
The reason the apes thing is probably because I'm jumping forward to Night of the Bloody Apes, and
yes,
which is very much this is the proto Night of the Bloody Apes.
Well, I mean, obviously, when I was watching this, because there's two, right? Rene Cardona Sr. made one in the 60s and then another one in the late 70s, right? There's like the
early 60s, late 60s. Night of the Bloody Apes is late 60s. So
yes, sorry, the earlier one is So the first one is like Luchadoras.
Yeah.
Luchadoras versus medical assassin or whatever it is.
Well, that's a different one, which we'll get to, because there's like 5 or 6 of those wrestling women.
But does the Luchadores versus that one not also have monkey heart transplant?
I'm not sure, because I haven't seen.
I thought that Night of the Bloody Apes was a remake of one of his Luchadores films.
Yes,
that's what
it's the remake of Wrestling Women versus Aztec Ape, I think, which is AKA Doctor of Doom, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it would make sense. So Medico Assassino makes sense then, because that's probably apparently there was this wrestling character who
like in a smock with a
who was a huge man in with like a
that's a different medical assassin. I think from memory. So, but anyway, we'll sort all that.
Get there. We'll get there. Yes,
we'll get that in a future show.
There is. Rest assured, viewers, there is no actual open heart surgery in this film, thank God. Which you may see in later.
And unfortunately, there isn't like a really long scene of a hobbling, slightly crippled man walking all the way through a house to answer the door and then back again.
I really
I love that.
Night of the Bloody Apes.
Yeah, it's
tremendous.
It's hypnotically differently abled, right?
It's a great film. So anyway, I don't know why they're exactly doing this, but apparently if he does this, if he gets these brain to work, but up until now all of his subjects have been failing him, right? These wrestlers have been just dying instead of doing whatever it is he wants them to do. So I mean, I was surprised that they kind of throw our protagonist under the bus at the midpoint of the film and just have him actually abducted and his brain opened up and replaced with that of an ape. And then I'm like, well, are they gonna sort this out somehow? And then no, it just becomes a straight up Frankenstein King Kong thing, the last third.
And when he loses his shit in the ring and throws that opponent straight into the ground, that's fantastic.
So good. Yeah. But first he like flings the ref out sideways, and then he just swings around this like stuffed mannequin thing, and it goes flying into the middle of the stands.
And then when you see him fully transformed with its fangs and everything, I mean, it's a very it's an interesting film actually, in so much it's pleasing in its simplicity. Like it's very like there's this dude, right, and he's turning wrestlers into monsters. Don't know why. He just is, and you have to find him, and then this guy turns into him, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's no last minute twist. There's like nothing. It's very simple. It plays like it's not boring, but it's paced. Nope. It's definitely paced.
Comfortably paced.
There isn't hugely, like with some of the later Santa films, there's huge time wasting, long wrestling scene. I like sometimes like 10-15 minutes of just wrestling, right? There's none of that. It's not a classic horror, I don't think, but there's something satisfyingly just that was enjoyed that. That was fun. I might watch that again one day. There's something about it, the makeup, and like I said, great photography. There's something very classic
and likable leads in all. The bad guys are kind of likably bad and weird. Like the lead sort of body snatcher guy is properly furtive and kind of
right.
And then the scientist, we're not quite sure why he wants to but well, I guess we get a sense of it because he does at one point. He seems to be trying to control, Wolf, right? Wolf, Guillermo, like with fire, very, very kind of Frankenstein-y stuff. But he is giving him orders, and then he just goes off. He goes off the wall, and I mean, I love the part where he's climbing up the outside of the building at the end when it goes full King Kong,
right.
carrying Lucia in his arms, and then the end is so strange when they cut back and the police captain is like, we're giving you the medal, like the woman who went out with him twice on 2 dates, like just we're gonna give you the medal in honor of the great and heroic sacrifice he made for all of us. And it's just it's just
but again,
strange
it's kind of oddly enough, it's actually kind of quite moving because you sense as if that was a great love affair cut short, right? I think she was quite into him because I'm into him. Well, and I'm not even gay, but he can turn a fella's head with his simple haste.
You know what?
Ways.
It's funny you should bring that up because one of the reviews I read on Letterboxd that made me laugh was written by a gay male film reviewer who was like, "This film is stocked full of eye candy." Like he was just super stoked on all the gym scenes of dudes in tiny pants. Like,
right. Like, oh yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, he said he said this thing was designed for the the homoerotic eye. And I was like, wow,
yes,
awesome.
A queer eye for the luchador guy.
Exactly. But yeah, no, this is lots and lots of fun.
So another thing that makes me laugh. I remember on some show or another, the late Sean Locke had a really funny gag about he had an idea of switching the format, right? A straight eye for the queer guy, and it was just like, yeah, don't stand like that.
I do like Sean Locke. So yeah, I don't know if do we have much else to say about that.
I'm glad you presented this because it was something I was going to get around to at some point, but no, it was nice to because it's like I said, it's a proper kind of classy little monster movie that I think if you can find it then and you can find the subs and everything, it's something that would appeal. Let's say, for instance, if you're someone who's not like our good friend Gino, for example, isn't massively into modern cinema. He has a preference for vintage stuff, right? So if you're a vintage horror aficionado and you've run out of your Universal horrors and other stuff, this is one, because of its lack of availability in the English language, or this is definitely one that you should check out, right?
I think so, and I think it wears its influences on its sleeve in a pleasing way. I think it definitely has the nods to King Kong. It has the nods to Frankenstein and any of the various body snatching kind of Val Lewton sorts of things. So yeah, it's
and it's got the additional added bonus of some homoerotic frisson if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even I found it. Even I.
Clive and I are both quite taken with Wolf, who did. He did. Apparently, he did spin himself off into a pretty successful wrestling career as well as acting career. So he was
wrestler, tango singer, and a magician. Apparently.
Wow. And tall guy, at least in the scenes where he's wrestling, and he seems like he's really, after he's had his brain replaced with that, like he's when he throws that rag doll out of that ring, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, I don't know.
Big man.
It's somehow oddly, even though it's a mannequin,
it works for some reason.
It's striking.
It's so violent. Like okay, so
good,
we're on
good stuff. Slightly less classy territory maybe, but yes, La Mansión de las Siete Momias. Fuck, I forgot to write the date down for this.
1977, apparently.
Okay. And here's a book that is useful for both of these films.
Oh, okay. The Mexican Mask Wrestler
and Monster Filmography by Robert Bob Cotter. This is a McFarland book, which has been my companion while because recently I have indeed been going through Well, it turned out I was going to do all the El Santo films, and then, as this film will attest to, I got into the weird quagmire of the crossovers, where Santo ends up with Blue Demon and Mil Mascaras, and then later on you get team-ups like the Champions of Justice and all that. I was like, the only way for me to keep this straight is for me to just watch them all. So I am actually in the midst of watching all of these films, which is actually a lot more fun than you might think. Like, I've got a real taste for the Mexican wrestling genre recently. Like it is my idea. You know, like you were saying something about the giallo, even if it's not good, it's comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've got that for Mexican wrestling. Like even the worst of them, they're just really something quite relaxing and chill about them. I quite enjoy. So this is.
So here's a question then, Clive. Have you seen any of the films starring Neutron?
Well, Neutron's a bit earlier, isn't he? He's like
well, because that's apparently that's Wolf, right? That's the character.
Right. Okay,
that's the character he creates after this film, I guess, to be his masked wrestling hero.
Yeah, there's like 4 of them. I think they're pre-Santo as well. I've seen 1 or 2 of them, but when I say I'm going through all these, so I started with Santo onwards, and I go back every now. There's like earlier ones as well. There's like one from the early 50s called Hurricane Ramirez, and there's a few other ones. But the Neutron series I haven't watched all in their entirety yet. But yeah. So to place this, so this is so for a start, this is basically so there was a series of Mummies of Guanajuato films, right? In fact, did we speak? Oh, it wasn't you, was it? We had a guest on Magic Morning Wood. We did. That might have been Darren. We did a Guanajuato Mummies film.
Yeah, no, that wasn't me. Okay.
And so this is basically the Guanajuato Mummies under a different name, right? They're not the Guanajuato Mummies anymore, but they look exactly the same, right?
Okay.
But it's filmed. So this one's filmed in Guatemala, right? In Antigua is the setting.
Yes.
But obviously they're using the same Guanajuato Mummies makeup for the. And so this is Blue Demon and Super Zan. So Blue Demon had his own series of films. He's probably second only to Santo.
Yeah.
So he had this long series. Super Zan had his own short series, and they'd also been together in various team-ups as well. I think they're in Castle of the Mummies of Guanajuato, and they're both in Triumph of the Champion of Justice. But so it's Blue Demon, Super Zan, and I can't remember who else is it. I mean, because there's the Holy Trinity: Santo, Blue Demon, Mil Mascaras, right? And then you get into your Super Zans and El Vampiro y Jalisco. And there's a few other ones that were in like 2 or 3 films or something like that. But this is a Blue Demons and Super Zan team, right?
Yes.
Just to put the context. And
77, we're quite a bit further on. I mean, for one thing, this is in full luminous color.
Yeah, I suspect it might have been filmed a little before that, maybe 75 or 76. But it's one of the last Blue Demons on his way out, right? It's one of the last of the Blue Demon films. But it's not about them to begin with. It begins with our heroine, the fetching Maria Cardinal.
Oh, yes, yeah. Which she shows up to a funeral wearing a plunging neckline. With I watched this with Jen. She was like, "Wow, that is some."
There's corpses coming clawing out of the grave. Wait a minute, hang on.
Yeah, she's she was not hard on the eyes.
So and her father has just died, and then so again, this is I'm still not 100%.
Yes,
I understand
the ins and outs of this are very strange.
But there's like a man who dresses in very red, frilly.
Oh yeah, yeah, Liberace.
Yeah.
The Baron or whatever he is. Yeah.
And an old woman in a wheelchair.
Yep.
And they seem to be. So now she's died. She's come into possession of a great treasure, right? But it's cursed. It's
yes. Yeah.
It's a cursed conquistador treasure.
Yeah, because her dad apparently is some kind of guy who'd made a pact with Satan, right?
Satan is in this, right? That is Satan.
Yeah,
right?
he does. Satan has said Lucifer. Lucifer is very much in the film. In fact, there was elements of this that were reminding me of, because the whole concept is if they can tempt her to be greedy about the treasure, then Satan can get her soul, which in a way makes up for the fact that he's been robbed by her father's ancestor. But her father seems to continually reincarnate as himself.
And the mummies actually are this series of barons, right? Apparently, they're the barons are actually these mummies as well. I think.
I think so. I mean, that part was a bit nebulous, but in any case, I couldn't help but think of Rene Cardona's Santa Claus film with Satan and Santa Claus fighting over the soul of Lupita, the little girl who couldn't be tempted to wrongdoing.
It's funny actually. It's something that you get in Mexican films. Actually, I realize now, and it's funny watching this film. You realize how actually not rare. I mean, it's notable. You don't often see Satan just front and center with his horns, right?
Literal.
But it's something you see in Mexican films quite a bit, actually. Like,
yep.
Then they'll go there, right? They'll just.
That's the Catholicism, I think, right?
Yeah, but it's you don't really often see just like, yep, Satan, how's it going?
No, you're right. Like Angel Heart is one of the few that immediately springs to mind where he's actually a character who.
No, you're wrong there, Nick, because that's not that's Louis Cypher. That's a
Cypher, you're right. Yes. Louis Cypher. Yes.
Dr. Alucard's nephew. So, but it turns out that Maria Cardinal, as well as being hot as fuck, she actually has a good heart as well. So the reason she wants to, so she can take the curse off the treasure and give it back to
the poor, because apparently her ancestor, who is just her dad reincarnated over and over again, was a real jerk who exploited the people. He was a conquistador, right? And he took all this gold, and so it's reparations, right? She's going to make it right.
It's a very modern take, and plus as well, interesting that they set it in Antigua, because I mean, judging by this film, I don't know much about Antigua. I'm ashamed to say, but it seems to go by Antigua does seem to be like, and it looks like it. It looks really steeped in that history, and it has a very strong sense of that colonial European history, right? So it makes me really want to go to Antigua. Have you ever been to Antigua?
No, and beautiful ruins in the film, right? We see them, and then also amazing volcanoes. Just every now and again, you'll see a shot of two people sitting, and there's like a massive volcano behind them. So yeah, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, one day let's go there and drink ourselves to death.
Yes, under a volcano. It's a date, Clive. And let's bring wrestling masks to do that.
Oh yeah. So then she's tasked with
this is kind of great. Yeah, so the will that she's been left, in order to get the treasure, she has to pass 3 penitences or trials in English.
She'll get like a scepter, and then so there's a bunch of these, and luckily for her, she happens to be very good friends with Blue Demon and Super Zan.
Or at least she has a boyfriend who's a massive wall of flesh wrestler called Rodrigo, who wears very tight shirts.
Oh, that's right.
And then he's pals with Blue Demon and
so they
Super
come, because that's the other awesome thing I love with it. I never tire of seeing muscly guys in masks doing everyday things. I think my favorite one is when they're sat at a table in the garden having a
little girl's tea party with a pink tablecloth. it's
so
amazing.
Good. And and they're so, the thing about them is they're always so serious, these mask wrestlers. Like, wonderful.
I'm
glad you're getting the the taste for these
Oh,
things. Right?
yeah, no, that was awesome. And in fact, because I was watching with Jen, she was also taken with the scene of the kids running up and then them like signing stuff in the street for them, because you
Yes.
could tell that those kids were
Oh, absolutely.
that they weren't acting at all. They were
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
completely
Oh, yeah. There's no
enthralled.
acting involved there. These are proper real life superheroes.
Superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another joy of these films as well, is somehow like trying to unpick like what the reality, and because they would have been in comic books and things as well, right? Like so it's almost as if they're real, like, oh yeah, they really are superheroes, and Santo is an Interpol agent sometimes. You know, it's just it's fast. It's a world I enjoy inhabiting, even at its most boring. It's just, yeah, I just love it. But so I suppose the most exciting set piece is the one where she has to get some sort of flying skull
Yeah.
in a swamp, and then these fucking mummies like come out the swamp almost like a Knights Templar.
Yep. It has elements of that. It also has elements of kind of almost Gianetto de Rossi, you know, zombie stuff, because you know, you're in a kind of a jungly environment. And then a film that we will talk about at some later date, it has elements to me of Swamp of the Ravens there as well.
Ah, right. Okay.
Like, you know, the whole film has this kind of dreamy quality that's really enjoyable to live in. Like, you know what I mean?
Aided immeasurably by this soundtrack, which is like reverb drenched organ or xylophone or electronics, or it's just
except for the fight scenes where it cuts to like rock and garage tunes. You know.
Yes.
Really, I think, you know, if there's anything, you know, if there's one sour note in this film, it's probably, what is his name? Manolin?
Oh no, I love me some
his voice is so close.
Manuel Palacio, the guy on the bicycle, right? The guy who's thrilled that bloody he's
okay, so here's the thing. You've just done that perfectly, and he sounds so much like any one of the like broad comedy relief teachers or something from a Go Nagai cartoon from the 1960s. Like, his voice almost exactly hits the pitch of like Mr. Alphonse or whatever, one of those like,
oh, cutie.
Totally.
What's wrong with that, Nick? That's gravy.
He gets a lot of screen time, that guy. But and also, it's quite nice. There's a kind of there's a Torgo from Manos Hands of Fate meets, who's the guy from the equivalent character from Incredibly Strange Creatures?
The one Cash Flag plays.
Yeah, like, you know. Anyway, we get a nice kind of Torgo Humpo character in this, who kind of does a lot of like, got his teeth up here and does a lot of
yes, who turns out to be very important. Yeah, he's a lot of fun. But let's just back off for a minute, because I think we don't do it. So actually, this film's not very good. Like, in terms of, it's quite badly edited for a start. Like, in terms of the rhythm of the film, like they start a film over here, and they start a fight scene, like you said, with the and then suddenly it stops, and you cut to this scene that's like, oh, and then like it's all over the place in terms of tone and edit.
At one point,
am I supposed to be excited or relaxed, or I'm not quite sure?
At one point, there's a scene, and it happens a few times in the movie, but one is particularly hilarious, where they have our heroine kind of, she comes through this piece of the, you know, the jungle. She steps over a log, and she kind of goes her way towards the bridge in the swamp. And then a moment later, we see Super Zan and El Santo exactly recreate what she's just done, but more manly. Yeah. And then immediately after that, we see Manolin, or whatever his name is, do it in a goofy way and fall over the line. Like, they've just showed us the same scene 3 times in a row.
But I don't think it's by design. Like, in terms of like how a film's supposed to be structured and edited to like. There's none of that. It's just but again, that's kind of the pleasure for me in some of these films, is the fact that I'm not quite sure how to react. I don't know if I'm supposed to be excited. I'm not supposed to be. I'm relaxed, and I just fuck it. And yeah, the organ is this reverb, and then that scene's cool. It's just like, I don't know. It's this weird miasma of emotions, and I don't, trying to be properly up to. I don't think it is good, and I think if you threw someone totally new in, this would be the equivalent of the deep end, right? I think people will be like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you watching this?" Like, but if you've at all started to get a Jones for this type of film, then I think you would enjoy. Because I just.
For me, it's tremendously satisfying. And I want to live in this town where all this stuff is going on. Yes. I want to spend time hanging out in those ruins with those 7 doors, with scepters floating in one of them.
I think you've knocked the nail on the head here. This is the thing with it. It is that type of, like, we've talked before a little bit about, I think the first time I ever became aware of a film like this was Fearless Vampire Killers. That was the first film that I existed in a world that I wanted to crawl into. Like, I wanted to be in that town.
Just live there for a week.
Yeah. And yeah, a lot of these films, actually, there's this weird combination of, because it's not that it's exotic locality, because it's got this history as well, right? Like, it's got this, it seems steeped in this deep history. And yeah,
but also I could just sit down at a pink tablecloth little table and drink tea with Super Zan.
Yes. Because there's an alchemy. There's like normal everyday things that you don't think of. If you do them in a mask with a cape, they automatically become better.
Yes.
And you have to be quite serious as well.
Oh yeah, you can't. There's no winking at the audience here.
The only other thing that might be as fun is to, if you pretend to be like in that P. Ramlee film, if you pretend to be rich people and how is your business?
Hello. Yes, business.
Very well, thank you. I flew in from. That is the only other thing you can do, is as much fun as putting on some masks. So anyway, clearly you're watching a YouTube video made by crazy people. But if you are as demented as we are, and easily pleased, and whatever else fuck is wrong with us, too much tapping that dottle, I think, then you may also enjoy La Mancha de las Siete Mummies. If this sounds at all interesting, go for it. And like we said, you can find it on YouTube right now. You can go to White Slaves of Chinatown 3D. It's not the best print, but it's good enough. And also the difference between this and the other print is, like I said, this one actually has more vibrant colors.
Yes, yeah.
Like the other one is overall better quality, but in some ways, seeing it with vibrant colors is maybe better. I don't know,
because it's more. It gives that cartoony element to it. Even it pushes it out there more.
Plus, there's no. Actually, this one doesn't have. Again, I'm so far gone by this point that they don't really bother me anymore. Anyway, but this doesn't have time-wasting wrestling scenes. There's like a bit where you think it's going to happen, where Rodrigo goes to meet, and all the adoring kids are around Clooney and you think, oh, here we go.
And they're clearly in an arena somewhere. Like they've obviously, it feels like they were shooting a different movie there, or something like that, and they were just like, can we get this 2 seconds we need for the Seven Mummies movie?
My guess is that was just filming at the end of a match. I reckon Blue Demon had just actually wrestled, and that's
that's what I thought too. But they were just they just said, let's do a couple of minutes for the movie right now while we're here.
Yeah, because he even says, "Oh, I'm really tired. I wonder if he like, I know I agreed to film this scene, but me and Super Zan have just been at it, man." And Super Zan's asleep already, right? He says in the back in the but yeah. So why did I mention that?
Oh, because
So
all the wrestling scenes are them fighting with supernatural.
So I thought we were. Oh, here we go. 10 minutes of wrestling, fine. I'm used to it. I'll make a cup of tea. But no, that doesn't happen. Yeah, no, it's just all wrestling. It's only mummy wrestling, right?
Yeah, and so those mummies, they're terrible wrestlers. I have to say.
Yeah, crap. If you are filling out your luchadores bingo cards, unfortunately, you won't be able to tick gratuitous in the ring wrestling scenes for this one. But otherwise, you're in for a good time. And let's see if we can find a copy of Sexo Sexo Ra Ra Ra.
Okay, I will take a look.
Rafael Lanusa was up to it. Any more to say about La Mancha de las Seta Momias?
No. The only thing I'm going to say is that a couple of years ago, my sisters, when they were visiting my parents down in Mexico, my dad was good enough to actually take them to see some lucha libre, and I still haven't had the opportunity to see it live. But I'm hoping very much in the next couple of years to be able to make that happen.
Knowing your childish, petulant nature, I'm guessing you're still very much smarting from this. And
it does hurt that my dad took my sister to see it, and that I didn't get to go.
Girls, this is man's work. This is.
And they said it was so good. They said the audience was like hyped to the max, like adults, kids, like it was just everyone was ape shit.
Yeah, and it is on my bucket list actually, is to go and see a proper luchadores match. It's correct environment.
In Mexico,
because it is still very much, it's still pretty popular.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
Not to the extent that it was in the 60s and 70s, maybe. But,
no, there isn't necessarily the movies and the other stuff, but the actual wrestling, which was always the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes of it, is still very much an ongoing concern. So, yeah, I'd love to see it. But if you can't, this is certainly the next best thing.
Yes, I think so. I mean. Yeah, like I said, this is, I think once you get the taste, like I'm already, like, I don't know how many I've watched now, but I think I'm about through the halfway mark, and I've got 2 or 3 other dozens I haven't watched it. And I'm already worried about running out of new ones.
Right. I mean, it's probably sacrilege, but I would say the only thing that I was missing, and I know that it's not very common to see in Mexican wrestling films, because there is that sort of feeling of slight conservatism around the wrestlers, is that because she was such a hottie, and this film had this kind of weird dreamlike quality, it would have been nice to have had some nudity, but there's very few of the.
Yes, it's interesting actually. There's a few of the films were prepared in sexy nude versions, right? But most of them have been lost over there. The only one I've seen, an extant one, is it called The Treasure of Dracula? I think it's called The Treasure of Dracula, which exists in a sexy version. And it's actually feels really like it feels wrong for El Santo, because he's such a fine, upstanding gentleman, right? But to see him in the same film with like tits fondling, and I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy it, but it does feel like you're doing something forbidden and naughty. And apparently, I think that was the reason. Apparently, that stuff was done without Del Santo's consent.
Okay.
And basically, he made sure that most of those films got destroyed. That's from what I understand.
Right.
Because he was concerned about his fan base, which it's children and stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see The Treasure of Dracula, and it is a bit of a treat actually. I would, if you're not yet an El Santo fan, I would hold off. But if you're already into it and you already have that kind of feeling for El Santo as an upstanding gent, I highly recommend watching the sexed up version, because it just feels so wrong. It's like, no, this isn't right. Which of course is an enjoyable experience unto itself, right? Yeah, so hopefully, who knows, they might be in someone's attic next to some lost Doctor Who episodes. Maybe they'll find some more, because they did a few of them, I think. Yeah.
So thanks again, I should say, to Turdis, who was our fan subber for mention, and thanks to Stodwa for Body Snatchers.
Stodwa.
Yeah. Stellar work, gentlemen.
A tip of the hat, a tap of the dottle to you both.
Indeed.
And
all right, adios, muchacho.
Yes, until next time.
Oh no, is the show end? Oh, this is shame. Oh no, I like this so much.